We are on Sefer Parshat Devarim, page 938. So it begins with Eila Devarim Asher Diber Moshe El Bnei El Kol Yisrael Be'ivra Yarden. These are the words Moshe spoke to all of Yisrael. Bamidbar Ba'arava Mol Suf Bein Paran Bein Tofel V'Lavan V'Chatzeros V'Dizav. So the first question is Moshe speaking to the Jewish people, and we're going to see some rebuke. Moshe is going to give Klal Yisrael a little bit of Musar here. So the first thing is why the word Eila HaDevarim. These are the words of Moshe Rabbeinu. So unfortunately, point out that Devarim is spelled the same way as the Hebrew word Devorim, which is bees. Spelled the same way as Devorim, which is bees. What's the common denominator between rebuke and bees? They sting. So there's no coincidence. Eila HaDevarim is like a little bit. There could be a little bit of a bee sting over here for the Jewish people. Because now it's an interesting thing about rebuke. Sometimes somebody says something and you get upset. Never understood that. Somebody says something and you get upset. You know, I think Ben. I don't think you got good table manners. All right, the Ben gets upset. Now, why are you getting upset? What I said is either true or it's false. If it's true, so what are you getting upset about? That means you got bad table manners. Everybody sees you got bad table manners. What do you get upset about? Stop eating your mashed potatoes with your hands. All right? That's one possibility. The other possibility is it's not true. How do you feel when somebody says something to you is not true? Bounces right off of you. Ben, stop robbing banks. Yeah, okay. Well, if somebody said to me, stop robbing banks, I would say, well, then what am I going to do for Parnasa? And I would make a joke out of it. I don't rob banks. It doesn't bother me in the least bit. Somebody says to me, you ought to improve your table manners. Oh, well, what are you? What are you? You're a culture queen over here? Who are you to tell me? Why are you getting defensive? Because you're right. Do you sense that they're right? I understand. Whose fault is it? It's your fault or it's my fault? I noticed it. If I noticed it, that means you're probably doing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have noticed it. So why is it my fault? And people get very defensive when that happens. People get very defensive. So it stings. Being rebuked stings. So the Torah starts off with Eila HaDevarim Asher Diber Moshe. Now who does he speak to? El Kol Yisrael. Speaks to the entire Jewish people. Why does Moshe Rabbeinu speak to the entire? He says he speaks to the entire Jewish people. I mean, is there anybody good? Is there anybody good? So there are two interesting things that the commentary said. One of them is that by speaking to the entire Jewish people, that stops people from coming back after you've been rebuked. If you walk into the room and you find out, well, the teacher just rebuked everybody today. And you say, well, why didn't you say, if I would have been there, I would have said, El Kol Yisrael. Talking to the entire Jewish people. You got something to say it now. Don't come back later and tell me, well, I could have said. You didn't say it now, right? You didn't say it now. Okay. That's what the commentaries say. That's very interesting. I'll tell you an interesting statement that's made in the Gemara. The Gemara says, a minority of people are involved in sins of immorality. We're talking about Jewish people, from Jewish people. A minority. Okay, nowadays doesn't apply as much because everything is topsy-turvy. Half the people who are Jewish who don't even know they're Jewish, and the people who are Jewish, most are not religious. But at a time where you're talking to a from Jewish community, let's go to Bnei Brak, go to Mea Sharm, go to any of these places. A minority of people are guilty of sins of immorality. Everybody knows immorality is a severe sin. Okay. The majority are guilty of theft. How's that? What do you mean? Everybody in Lakewood is robbing banks? I mean, what's that? The majority of people in Lakewood are robbing banks? Well, not necessarily. There are all sorts of forms of theft. You could go into a supermarket and maybe touch something, and you want to check out something, and it goes crunch as you touch it, and you quickly put it back on the shelf. That's stealing. Or you take advantage of a sale. It's 2 per customer, so you ask the guy behind you to take a couple for you and just say that he's buying it for himself. I'll meet you in the parking lot. That's also a form of theft. Or you have a membership card to a club that says non-transferable, but when your cousin's visiting, You give him the card to use with the justification that, they want the club to be used. They like when people come. We got all the justifications about. Or you go to a Holiday Inn and you happen to help yourself to an ashtray or some soap or some shampoo or the TV or something that you happen to walk off with. Or you work in the office and you happen to take home a stapler or a pen or a computer or anything else that's not that. Well, everybody does it, right? So we're all guilty. That's why it says not everybody. The majority of people are guilty of theft. Maybe you cheat the United States government on your taxes. Maybe you're cheating on your taxes a little bit. That's a form of theft. I told you about the kid in the school. Kid gets caught in the school. Little firm kid gets caught. He's taking money out of another kid's briefcase. So the Rabbi catches him. He says, okay, Herschel, you're going to the principal's office. He says, okay. Goes to the principal's office. The principal says, Herschel, I heard you were taking money out of somebody's briefcase. He says, yeah, it's true. He says, yeah, it's a terrible thing. You don't look very contrite. Yeah. He says, yeah, Herschel, you're in big trouble. He says, yeah, I figured. You don't look too nervous about it. He says, I'm not. He says, I'm going to call your father. He says, yeah, I figured. So you don't look too worried about it. He says, I'm not. Well, why not? Says, my father's going to be proud of me. He says, what? Why would your father be proud of you? He says, listen, my father's always walking around bragging about how much money he cheats the IRS. So he'll be proud of me. Right? So the father's not going to be proud of the kid. But the kid doesn't know the difference. What's the difference? Stealing here, stealing there. What's the difference? What's the difference? Where are you stealing? So everybody is guilty. Not everybody. Again, the Gemara says the minority immorality, the majority stealing. A guy told me in England, the guy's got a grocery shop in England. You're going to one of these stores. So you can buy candy, you put it in a bag, and you weigh it on the scale, and there's a display there. All right. So the guy's standing there, the owner of the store. Guy walks in and starts filling up some bags, and as he's filling up the bags, he's munching on the candy. The guy walks over to him and says, listen, if you want to take one or two to taste them, to see if you want them, it's fine. But don't make a whole meal out of it. Yeah, just noshing away on the candy over there. Okay, he said that. The next week, guy comes in again. And again, he starts noshing on the candy. So the owner of the store comes over and says, I asked you, please don't do it. Okay, guy says, okay, sorry. Comes in the third week and he does it again. So the owner of the store says, look, I told him twice, I'm not gonna waste our breath on this guy. If this guy is not a mensch, I'm not going to waste our... Okay. About 6 months later, the owner is in the back. He told me this himself. He's in the back office, and he's got a camera that sees the whole store. Little girl comes in, 7-year-old girl comes in. She looks around furtively, starts taking stuff, candy, filling in her pockets. So he comes out here and says, young lady, get into my office. He comes here, what's your telephone number? He calls up the home. Father comes down. He says, sir, do you know what your daughter just did? She filled her pockets. So the father gets up to slap his daughter. So the owner grabs him and pulls him into the side and says, if you slap her, I'm going to slap you. I told you 3 times not to take and help yourself to the candy. I told you 3 times. If your daughter's doing it, where do you think she learned it from? Right? So, people take liberties when you go in. So in Israel, they have these sunflower seed stores. People are sitting there just munching away over there at the counter. By the way, some of the smarter places, first of all, they put the cashews and the pistachios towards the back so you can't reach them. And now there are other places I've seen they actually have an L-shaped glass that you can't even get over it because people come in and say, start munching. And my son told me he has friends. They used to go every Friday. They'd walk through Gula. They'd stand there with the crowd. Eat some pistachio nuts. Leave the store, go down the block. Go to the other. Where there are crowds of people. Help himself to 1 or 2. Have a whole mash of pistachios and cashews on a Friday. So I said to my son. My son wouldn't do it. My son was also cynical about it. He had the same attitude. I said, if you're already going to steal, go rob a bank, man. Don't go to Gehenna for pistachio nuts. If you're already going to steal, and it's 100% stealing. It is 100% stealing. So whenever I go in, if I want to taste to see if they're fresh, I say to the guy, do you mind if I taste one? I ask if I can taste one. To stand there eating, I have a guy in my neighborhood, a guy at a Makolet. So he had a display like that. He was selling fresh nuts and stuff. So I said to him, why, and then one day it disappeared. I said, why'd you get rid of it? He says, it wasn't worth it. He says, he's got his suppliers come in all day long. He's got people dropping off, the suppliers are dropping off stuff at the store. So these guys come in and they're filling out the receipt, they're filling out the form, and while they're at it, They're munching away on pistachio nuts. Help yourself to help yourself. So he said, there goes my profits. These guys are coming in. He's got guys coming in all day because he's a store. And each guy figures, yeah, what the heck, and he's not going to tell a supplier, a truck driver, don't take the pistachio nuts. That means he's got to be doing it all day long. He said it wasn't worth it. They're eating up his profit. You understand how much money it was? That's what they used to do in Stone. In Stone, a guy would be selling apples, so people would come converge on the apple vendor. Each guy would take one apple. So who do you chase? They'll come over, each guy takes like, hey, give me back there. I'm sorry, I just took one apple. Yeah, you took one, you took one, you took one, you took one, and I'm broke. That's a form of stealing. Okay, so that's the majority are involved in theft. And if you think about it yourself, if shoplifting, damaging goods in stores, that happens all the time. You damage goods, you knock something off the shelf. Hey, you knock something off the shelf, you got to pay for it. Unless they stacked it irresponsibly. You turn to reach something, you knock the bottle off the shelf. Well, listen, you're in a supermarket, and you're Adamu ad Lolam, you're responsible. Okay? Then the Gemara says there's a third category. Everybody is guilty of avak lashon hara. Now, do you know what avak lashon hara is? There's lashon hara, which is inappropriate speech, saying something deprecating or derogatory about somebody. There's something called avak lashon hara, which means the dust of lashon hara. The dust of lashon hara means that you didn't actually speak lashon hara, but you did something. Maybe you got an assist. So one classic example of avak lashon hara is I know Ben doesn't like somebody named Chaim. I know Ben really doesn't like Chaim. Yeah, Ben lost one-on-one to Chaim several times, and he really doesn't like Chaim. He thinks Chaim's a bald guy, but also say Ben can't stand Chaim. I say, hey Ben, I saw Chaim yesterday. Well, what do you think Ben's going to do now? Oh, that no good. The first reaction, oh, that no good, Nick. So he spoke lashon hara, but I got an assist. I set him up. That's avak lashon hara. Or if we're sitting at a room full of people and you praise somebody in public. Because if you're sitting in a room full of people, you praise somebody in the room is bound to say, I say, wow, you're not going to believe I saw Chaim. What a great guy. And it's somebody, you can't take it that somebody else is being praised. So somebody says, yeah, but he's got messy handwriting. Somebody's got to say something negative. Okay, you spoke lashon hara. I got these. It's called avak lashon hara. Avak lashon hara is when you didn't actually do it, but you created a situation where lashon hara was spoken. The only time you're allowed to say something, praise somebody publicly, is where it's a known tzaddik, like the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, myself. Anybody who's a known. Why are you smiling, Ben?
Because it's true.
Oh, okay. So anybody, what do you call it? Unless it's a known tzaddik, because nobody likes hearing people excessively praise. It eats away at us a little bit until somebody blurts it out. That's a avak lashon hara. Okay. Now, when does Moshe Rabbeinu, according to that Gemara, if Moshe Rabbeinu gathers all of the people of Israel to rebuke them? I mean, you want to rebuke people for wearing shatnez, but I don't wear shatnez. You want to rebuke people for eating treif? He doesn't eat treif. Where is there one thing that he could rebuke the entire Jewish people for, where everybody, according to the Gemara, everybody's guilty? Avak lashon hara. That you got everybody. Read the first verse. Eile hadvarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. These are the words that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the entire Jewish people. Look at the very first word of the Parsha. Eile. What do the three letters Eile stand for? Avak lashon hara. The first word of the Parsha. Aleph Lamed Hey. Avak lashon hara. You want to talk to the entire Jewish people? You're covered. Just talk about avak lashon hara, then you're going to cover them. That's what the commentaries say. So the Moshe Rabbeinu starts to rebuke the Jewish people for the various averas that they've done. Now, every place that he mentions here, yes.
Specifically, avak.
Again, your first name. Again, your first name is
Avi.
Avi, go ahead.
Is it specifically avak lashon hara, or is it lashon hara?
There's lashon hara and there's avak. There are two categories.
So what's Moshe rebuking them?
Again, the commentators are only trying to find a hint to something that could cover the entire Jewish people, because he's got everybody there. So nobody could say I'm not guilty of this. So Eila is just a hint. It's just a hint. Obviously, he's rebuking them for everything. We're going to see much bigger averas that the Jewish people have done. Okay? Yeah.
Can you praise somebody after somebody else said lashon hara about that? That's it.
About the same guy?
Yeah.
You should. Not only you could praise him, you should say it. If somebody comes along and says, oh, I heard Ben has messy handwriting. I said, listen, Ben's a pretty good guy, and you should try to always try to adjust it in some way. Now, take a look how the Parshat continues. So this gets a little more subtle. Where does Moshe Rabbeinu criticize them? We're going to have to see some Rashi here now. It says, Eile advarim asher diber Moshe al kol Yisrael be'ever hayarden b'midbar ba'arava mol suf, opposite suf, bein paran uvein tofel v'lovan v'chatzeros v'di zahav. I mean, these are all names of places. So Rashi says that bein paran uvein tofel v'lovan. Now I want you to look in the first right column of Rashi. It's about 7 lines from the bottom of the column. Bein paran uvein tofel v'lovan. About 7 lines from the bottom of the column. If you find it, please show the person next to you. So where are these places? Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yochanan, Chazarnu al kol hamikra. We went over all the verses. V'lo matzinu makom sheshmo tofel v'lovan. We never found a place in the travelings of the Jewish people called Tofel and Lavan. Yet it says over here that they were stationed in a place called Tofel and Lavan. What does that mean? Ella, rather, Hochichan, Moshe Rabbeinu rebuked them, al hadvarim shetaflu al hamon shu Lavan. Moshe Rabbeinu rebuked them for the disparaging remarks they made about the man which was white. So when the Torah says v'lavan, it's referring to the manna. It's an allusion to the manna. The Amru, they said, v'nafshenu kotza balechem haklokel. We are tired of this insignificant bread. All right? So the Jewish people, you're complaining. I mean, could you imagine? You've got your parnasa. You don't have to go to work. The mun could taste like anything you want. It even, according to some, had the texture of anything you want. You could have I'm going to have some roast pheasant. Chew, take a couple of bites earlier. Now I'm going to have an ice cream sundae, or a Monday, as the case may be. Right? You have an ice cream. I'm going to have some meat and milk in it. No, and you're not even mixing meat and milk together. And you could have anything you want. You could have M&Ms. You could have, even if it's not chalav yisrael, anything you want in the month. And you're complaining about that? You don't have to work. You got mun. You don't have to work, and you're complaining. What does God do when the Jewish people complain about the mun? You remember what the Torah says? He brought venomous snakes. He unleashed venomous snakes on the Jewish people. Oh, that stops complaining. That's a real good way to get people who are complaining, to get them into the proper. Hey, I don't like the food in the yeshiva. No kidding. Take a look over there, what's crawling down the walls over there. Got a couple of venomous snakes over there biting people on the wall. Hey, I love yeshiva food. All of a sudden, it puts everything in a proper perspective. You get nothing like an attitude changer like snakes, right? So what is it? Why is it that God brings the snakes when the Jewish people complain about the months? There's a plain meaning, there's a plain idea, and there's a deeper idea. What's the plain idea?
Bad speech is symbolized by the snake.
Because right, you're complaining. You're disparaging the man. What is a snake? The snake is the symbol of lashon hara. The snake is a symbol of inappropriate speech, because he was the first one who spoke lashon hara on God, so to speak. And the snake in general is always a symbol of evil. Snake is always a symbol of slyness, evil. Right? The snake that we always think of somebody as a serpent. I'll tell you a story. There was a woman in Israel. His story was going around. There was a woman in Israel who was known as a gossip monger. She was always speaking lashon hara. Always speaking lashon hara. She always disparaging people. And she died. They buried her. And after they buried her, one of the members of the Chevra Kadisha found he was busy. He had a wallet stuffed with cash that he had to go make a payment for his daughter's wedding, about $10,000, a significant sum. Can't find his wallet. So what happened to my wallet? So he thinks to himself, the only thing that could happen, it must have fallen into the grave when they buried the woman. But there's a halacha, you can't open a grave once you bury the dead. So he went to a posek. And the Rav said, if you strongly suspect it dropped in there, then under the circumstances, since it's a heavy loss, halacha views a heavy loss differently than an insignificant loss, you could go to the grave, you could open it up very quickly, take a look to see if your wallet is there, and that's it. So the guy goes down to the graveyard, and he opens up the grave, and he looks inside, sees there's the woman, her body, There are 3 thick snakes wrapped around her body, squeezing as hard as they can. So, I don't make any claims, but we only know that somebody who speaks Lashon Hara is compared to a snake. It's a great story I told to my kids right before they went to sleep one night. That's a great story to tell. They haven't spoken Lashon Hara since. That was 19 years ago. You know, they haven't spoken. It's a great story. Yeah, they find the wallet, right? Yeah, I think he was too spooked to look himself. That's the you know. So. Oh, by the way, I heard it's completely off topic. I heard an interesting shayla. Listen to this one. Some lady, a woman died. Mr. Fogel, you're gonna love this. A woman died, and they had to contact her family. Family was in France. And the family wanted to fly in for the funeral. So they hired a private jet to fly in for the funeral. In the meantime, there was some sort of miscommunication, and the family in Israel went ahead and did the funeral before they flew in from France. So then after they did the funeral, they realized, oh, we messed up. And when this family comes in now, and they find out we did the funeral, and we didn't wait for them, there's going to be World War III. So they went to Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein, Rav Elyashiv's son-in-law, one of the biggest poskim today. They said to him, what do we do? Could we open up the grave, take out the body, and just do a refuneral? Because, otherwise, for the sake of shalom, for the sake of peace, you can do a lot of things in Allah, otherwise there's going to be World War III. He said, absolutely not. You cannot reopen the grave. Reopening the grave arouses the midah of din against the deceased. It's considered very severe in halacha. The only time you're allowed to do it, I think, is if a baby has been buried without, a baby dies before the bris. They buried him, the baby has to be circumcised. They circumcise, even a baby that dies, they circumcise. A baby's miscarried, they circumcise him before a Jewish baby. They circumcise before he's buried. So that's the only time in halacha you're allowed to open up the grave. Here you can't open up the grave. The family didn't know what they said. Okay, can we do a fake funeral? We'll take a dummy, wrap it up in a tallis, and we'll just have a funeral. They won't know the difference. The members of the Chevra Kadisha won't say anything. We'll have a funeral for the sake of shalom. For the sake of shalom, you're allowed to deceive for the sake of shalom. Are we allowed to do it? So Rav Zilberstein said, look, if under the circumstances nobody will find out and nobody will ever know, and nobody's going to say, then under those circumstances, for the sake of shalom, you'd be allowed to do it. It doesn't mean it's advisable, because chances are they will find out, and then there's going to be even a bigger World War. They're going to have a big World War III and World War IV, right? But theoretically, you're allowed to do it. That means you are allowed to create a deception for the sake of shalom. The only time when, there's something called Genevas Das. Genevas Das means creating a deception. For example, I'm going to sell you my old car, and I paint it up without telling you to make it look nicer, to make it look like it's a new car. Anything that I do, let's say you put on a really sharp suit with some golden jewelry, and you really look, the whole 9 yards, and you walk into an automobile dealership and say, hey, can I take that Trans Am for a spin? The guy looks at you, you're all decked out in gold. They say, yeah, sure, buddy, go ahead. And then you take it for a spin, and you come back, thanks, the runs really good, and then off you go. You just wanted to drive a Trans Am, right? That's creating a deception. That's called Genevas Das. That you're not allowed to do. When are you allowed to do it? When are you allowed to do it? For the sake of peace. If you want to make that, now, where is the line? The line is if there's nothing in it for you personally. If there's nothing in it for you personally, then you're allowed to do it. If you stand to gain, then you can't do it. Then it's Genevas Das for your own benefit. Then you can't do it, even if it's for the sake of peace. But you stand to gain from it, other than the peace itself, then you're not allowed to do it. Could you do it in order to maintain peace? Yeah, but you better be really careful. You better really, really careful when you try to deceive people for the sake of peace, because if you try to deceive people and for the sake of peace, then it's not, there's going to be a bigger blow up. There's going to be a bigger blow up than anything. That's the rule over here. So the mun, number one, the mun is similar. You spoke Lashon Hara, therefore you get the snakes. Number two, what did the snake eat? Do you remember what was the curse when God curses the snake? The original story. The snake's going to eat earth. You're going to eat offer tochal kol yamechayecha. You're going to eat dirt. Now snakes don't eat dirt. What do snakes eat? They're rodents. They're little creatures. Okay. So there are different opinions among the commentaries what that means. You're going to eat dirt, because they don't literally eat dirt. So there is an opinion that even after they eat a rodent, they lick the dirt. They always have to have a little bit of dirt afterwards. There's an opinion that whatever they eat, they don't taste it. And my brother, who was going to be a zoologist, told me there's a very interesting thing about snakes. You ever notice when snakes eat something, they don't chew it. They kill it and they swallow it whole, so there's no taste over there. There's no taste over it. So they have pictures of snakes swallowing alligators. Ugh, right? Snakes swallowing ray. It is not my thing, by the way. Yeah, my brother was really into this. He was going to be a zoologist. Right? And what's that? What, a snake swallows an ostrich? And you see the whole lump going down his stomach over there, going down, but they don't taste it because they're not chewy. That could be what it means. The Jewish people, what was it that they spread? They started criticizing what? The taste. Mun, which could taste like everything, and that you got a problem with? What's their punishment? Serpents, who taste nothing. That's your problem. You want to know what it's like to taste nothing? Here, enjoy the snakes. Enjoy the serpents. Number three, there's a fascinating commentary by the Chassam Sofer. This is a very deep idea. A snake will only bite something that has a dirt essence to it. Mun was a spiritual food which transferred the entire makeup of the human being who ate the mun. The Jewish people didn't relieve themselves in the desert. They didn't relieve themselves because the mun was not a physical food as we understand physical foods. It was a nourishing food and it was a filling food, but it wasn't a physical food, so there was no need to relieve yourself from the mun. The mun changed the essence of the person so much that the Jewish people were immune to snake bite because they have none of that dirt essence, what's called afar. They have none of that essence in them. You're complaining about the mun. That's what you're complaining about. You want to be that dirt essence. Okay, here, now the snakes are. Now, welcome to the snakes. Say hi, snakes. Here they come. Because you were complaining about the mun. That's why you got bit by the snakes. Fascinating idea. And again, God works mida keneged mida. God works you. Whatever you do, that's what you get in return. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Daled first. On page top of 940. Acharei, all of this that Moshe speaks to the Jewish people is Acharei hakoso, top line on page 940. Acharei hakoso es Sichon melech ha'Amori. This is after Moshe has smitten Sichon, the king of the Amorites, Asher Yoshev b'Cheshbon, in the land of Cheshbon. Veis Og melech ha'Bashan. Remember Og, we spoke about him. Asher Yoshev be'Ashtaros be'Edrei. This is right after Moshe has smitten Sichon and Og. Now he lets into the Jewish people a little bit with some Musar. So we learn a life lesson from this as well. When you're going to rebuke somebody, do something for them first. Moshe Rabbeinu, what have you done for me recently? Well, I just killed Sichon and Og. Now I'm going to give you some rebuke. Why? Why is that the proper procedure? Why do you think that's the proper procedure? What do you say, Ben?
It's that way whenever you start rebuking them, it's that way they don't come and turn and say look, you have no right to be telling us or what we're doing.
Very good. Very good. Very good. In other words, if you're going to rebuke somebody, why is it, we've spoken about this before, why is it sometimes you accept rebuke and sometimes you don't? It's where you sense where it's coming from. Where's it really coming from? When somebody rebukes you and you see that that's not really what the issue is and they don't like you anyway and they got something against you, you sense it's not coming from the right place. The only time we accept rebuke is if we feel it's coming out of love. How do you show that you love somebody? Give somebody something. I give you a birthday present. Say, Ben, here's a birthday present for you. A brand new fork. Give Ben a brand new fork. Ben, by the way, your table manners need some improvement. No, so that's crude, by the way. That's crude. Give Ben a brand new football. Hey, a brand new football. And by the way, Ben, table manners got to improve. Oh, sure, be glad to. Sure. Yeah, let's go play some catch. Right? You understand? It creates, that's why it's always good to start with a compliment. When you rebuke somebody, it's good to start with a compliment. So a person with a compliment, sometimes if a guy starts with a compliment, you're about to get zapped. Ben, you asked a really good question to Chumash here today, but, all right, but he'll accept it more. He'll still accept it more. You know why? I'll tell you why. It's an interesting insight into human nature. If you rebuke me, I don't like to think it's the truth. Kaplan, you're a little inconsiderate. You ought to be more considerate. I don't like hearing that. I like to think, But if you give me a compliment, I want to hold on to the compliment. I want to hold on. Kaplan, you do look like Johnny Depp. Yeah, I've always thought so. And by the way, you could be a little bit, improve your table manners. Oh, sure, okay. You know why? Because it's unlikely either you're telling the truth on both or you're lying about both. I want to believe the compliment. If I believe the compliment, you got to believe the criticism as well. So I'll accept the criticism. So Moshe Rabbeinu over here, he's going to let into the Jewish people a little bit. First, you see, I got nothing personal against you. If I had something personal against you, I wouldn't be wiping out Sichon and Og. I destroyed Sichon and Og. Now you can accept what I'm saying for you. Now you know that I'm. You want to hear an unbelievable story? Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein was the mashgiach of the Panovich Yeshiva. Now he took no prisoners. When he had something to say, he said it. And Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein was once in the yeshiva, and there was a bacher in the yeshiva who he didn't like, not on a personal level. He just felt as though this bacher was arrogant, inconsiderate, selfish, everything bad. And Rabbi Levenstein had very little to do with this boy. He really didn't feel that there's much he could do with him. One day, Rabbi Levenstein was walking towards the yeshiva, and he was carrying something up towards Panovich. He was carrying a big, heavy box. So the boy came up behind him, and out of clear voice said, "Here, Rabbi, let me take that for you." And he carried it a few steps up to the yeshiva. Then he gave it back to Rabbi Levenstein. So Rabbi Levenstein said to him, "You know what? You did me a favor. Now I owe you a favor in return, and I'm going to pay it off. You're no good, you're haughty, you're arrogant, you're selfish, you're an He just absolutely mopped the floor with him. He made a complete change in the boy. Boy, he changed completely 100%. He changed 100%. So you have to know when the time is right, and you have to know where it's coming from. Rav Levenstein apparently felt, now it's coming out of a debt of Hakar Satov, a debt of gratitude. It's not coming out of my own, I got to get it out of my system. You should know that sometimes in the yeshiva world, sometimes rebuke can be very, very sharp. And sometimes people need that. Sometimes people need injections that hurt from a doctor. Sometimes the doctor gives an injection. Sometimes people needs a harsh treatment from the doctor. Right? So the doctor, sometimes the treatment is very harsh. It happens periodically. So Rav Levenstein led into the boy with everything he had, and he changed. From that day on, he changed. That was the break point. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, I'm going to let into you a little bit. Now take a look at Pasuk Hey. Be'ever HaYarden, on the other side of the river, Be'eretz Moav, Ho'il Moshe Be'eretz HaTorah Zosei. Moshe began clarifying the Torah. Now take a look at Rashi on Pasuk Hey. It's also about 7 lines from the bottom of the right column. If you find it, please show the person next to you. You see where it says Be'er Es HaTorah? Count 7 lines from the bottom on the right column. 7 lines from the bottom on the right column, and it's towards the end of that line. Yes. It says Be'er Es HaTorah. Moshe clarified the Torah. Says Rashi, B'shivim Lashon Pirsha Lahem. He explained it to them in 70 languages. He explained the Torah to them in 70 languages. He translated to 70 languages.
Why not the last 2?
No, there's 70. There's said to be 70 languages, not 72 languages. 70.
72 steps of Pharaoh.
70. There were 71. There were 70 steps. 70 steps reaching up to Pharaoh. Pharaoh only knew 69. In Egypt, they knew there were 70 steps, and when you came to approach the king, the amount of languages you knew is how many steps you went up towards the king. King said all the way at the top. And what happened was, and I don't know that it just means the language as much as the entire culture. I'm not sure if it just means, parlez-vous français. I think it's a little bit more than that. Whatever it was, to the degree, you knew 36, you go up 36 steps. So when Yosef was released from prison, so the Gemara says, Yosef went up 70 steps, and he was facing Pharaoh. He knew every language. Pharaoh said, bonjour, monsieur. Yosef went and started going. He answered whatever Pharaoh threw at him. Then when Yosef got up to the 70th step, he said to Pharaoh, Shalom Aleichem. And Pharaoh didn't know what he was saying because Pharaoh did not know Lashon HaKodesh. So he made Yosef swear that he wouldn't tell anybody that he doesn't know that language. Yosef knows one more language than he does. Yosef was taught 70 languages the night before in prison by the angel Gabriel. He was taught all 70 languages. So Pharaoh, he knew one language, word Pharaoh. Pharaoh made him swear, don't tell anybody. I make an oath. Yosef swore, I won't tell anybody. Then later on, when Yosef wanted to bury his father, he came to Pharaoh and said, I need to bury my father in the land of Canaan. And Pharaoh said, no, I don't want you leaving. Of course he doesn't want Yosef leaving. He's the minister of the economy minister, and everything is good while Yosef. I don't want you running off to the land of Canaan. And Yosef says, yeah, but I swore to my father I'd bury him in the land of Canaan. So Paro says, well, I guess you're going to have to break that oath, aren't you? So Yosef says, well, if I break that oath, I'm going to have to break the other oath also that I swore that I wouldn't tell anybody. So Paro said, I think it's a great day for a funeral in Canaan. Go ahead. Can I get you anything for the road? Maybe want some peanuts. All of a sudden things look a little bit different. So there's 70 languages. So the Torah says over here, Moshe translated it in 70 languages besides Lashon HaKodesh. The Torah is Lashon HaKodesh. Besides, he translated in 70 languages. Okay, I don't know how long that took. Must have taken a long time. You got to get through Italian and Greece, and Greek, and a little bit of Czechoslovakia. I don't know what all the languages are. What's the Torah telling you with that? Okay, so they translate in 70 languages. Why are we interested in that? What's the significance? I mean, remember, you can read the story and just go, ooh, right? Or you can read it and say, the Torah is obviously speaking to us. What's the Torah telling you? He translated in 70 languages. What does that tell you? What does it tell you?
Torah is for everyone.
Yes, particularly when we go into exile. There's never going to be an excuse. Well, can't. We live in Madagascar. No Torah for us. No. Moshe translated it in Madagascarese also, right? We're up in Afghanistan. No. The Afghans want our favorite language. Everywhere you go, Torah goes with you. There's no such thing as we are absolved. We are exempt from our obligation to learn Torah. Everywhere you go, Torah goes with you. The Jewish people are going to be exiled at the faraway places. Jewish people have always been exiled to faraway places. But everywhere you go, there's a Jew. They say everywhere you go, there's a Chabad. And everywhere you go, there's Coca-Cola, right? Those are, everywhere you go, you're going to find them all over there, right? At the end of the day, 70 languages means that the Torah is going to be with you, and you have no excuses. You're going to have to learn Torah, number one. Number two, there's the idea, did you ever hear what it says, Shivim Panim LaTorah? Shivim Panim LaTorah. Now, this is also a fundamental... 70 faces to Torah means there's 70 different interpretations, 70 ideas. Sometimes you come up with an idea in Torah, and somebody says, well, but I thought of a different idea. You could both be right. The Torah branches out. There's 70, Shivim Panim LaTorah, there's 70 different ways to understand it. And by the way, the number is not limited to 70. Do you know that the Gemara says Torah is compared to a fig tree? Torah is compared to a fig tree. Why is a fig tree significantly different than any other tree, other than the fact that it grows figs? Right? What's significantly different about a fig tree? You ever been around a fig tree?
Only the female gives fruits or something?
Oh, that could be. I don't know. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
A lot of branches.
What's that? A lot of branches. It's true. I grew up in Israel. I was in Israel for a few years. As a little kid, we had fig trees outside the house. You know what's unique about a fig tree? There's no one harvest. You go up to the fig tree, you look it over one day, you picked off all the ripe figs. You go up the next day, a few more figs are ripened. You go up the next day, a few more figs are ripened. They don't ripen all at once. So the commentators say, why Torah is compared to the fig tree? Because when you look through Torah, every time you look through it, you'll see another interpretation. You'll see something else. You find something you didn't see before. No matter how many times you learn it, you'll see something. I never noticed that before. It was right there, and you never noticed it. Oh, that's what a fig tree. Every time you go up on a fig tree, pull a leaf, hey, there's another one that just ripened. Hey, by the way, there's no accident to comparing it to something ripening. Because sometimes it's right there, but we're not ripe yet. We're not ripe yet. You haven't ripened yet. Your wisdom, your mind hasn't ripened yet. All of a sudden you get an idea, so things start coming together. All of a sudden, it's a giant Torah out there compared to the fig tree. That's what the commentaries say. So a Torah is also compared to a mother nursing the baby. Whenever the baby needs to nurse, the mother provides for the baby. Whenever the mother needs to nurse, the mother provides for the baby. Do you know what the Gemara says? That the poles of the Aron Kodesh, when they were in the Holy of Holies, there was a curtain there? Mm-hmm. The Gemara says the poles pushed against the curtain. The Gemara says, you know what it looked like when the poles pushed against the curtain? It looked like the top half of a woman's anatomy. You got nothing else to compare it to? You can't give us a better comparison than that? You have women's anatomy? What do you think the Torah is telling you? The same way that the mother is the nourishment for the child, the Torah is the nourishment for the Jewish people. If what you said is true about the female fig tree, that'd be a remarkable thing. Find out for me if that's true. I'm sure you guys could have ways to find out. I'd be very interested to hear that. Why are there other trees? The male, female.
So they leave in the fields. All the fig trees are female, and then they have one or two males to pollinate with the figs. So that,
And by other trees? By other trees, they both produce?
again,
I think with apples,
There's some
I'd be very interested. It'd be very interesting. It would fit very well if it should be very.
anatomy of the plants very
Yeah. Well, what's the difference between a male tree and a female? I mean, how do you even know that's a male tree or a female tree? How does one know?
so one pollinates, I believe, one.
Oh, one pollinates. Okay. That's the idea.
You look, it's like an egg. You can smell an egg.
Where on the tree? On the trees.
Well, it's different.
I understand, but but that's a.
Pollination makes sense.
Very good. Okay, gentlemen, we'll continue tomorrow. Mitzvah Shem.